Hey there, grade 3 teachers. Let's have a look at some ways that you can connect computer science into your Earth Systems unit. So the grade 3 computer science curriculum talks about students investigating creativity and its relationship to computational thinking. So you're going to be looking for as many ways as you can to incorporate computational thinking into your other classroom lessons and daily routines to help your students get a solid understanding of what computational thinking is and to develop the skills that are involved with it too. The knowledge, understanding, skills, and procedures in grade 3 have students creating sets of instructions that could be followed by a human or a machine and identifying computational thinking. We also see collaborating to write two different sets of instructions, relating creativity to engineering, and we even see examining a Canadian invention coming up in the computer science curriculum. So some of these things you're definitely going to be teaching explicitly only within a computer science unit within your science timetable. But you're also going to be looking for opportunities to connect these into your other science units and your other subject lessons too. That's how you're going to ensure that your students have a really good solid grasp of the key aspects of the computer science curriculum. We know that all the way from kindergarten through grade 6, there are three overarching ideas that encompass computer science organizing idea. They want students thinking about learning and thinking about computational thinking, the design thinking process, and also creativity, and as it is related to creative thinking and finding solutions to problems. So in grade 3, we see creativity coming up in your knowledge and skills and understandings. And we also see that computational thinking explicitly coming out there, although it has been included as that higher level overarching piece of the organizational idea since kindergarten, and your students have been working on some of these skills even though they may not have been explicitly learning about them. So as we jump in to the Earth Systems curriculum, we can see here with these skills and procedures where students are being asked to describe some natural events changing Earth's surface and do some investigation of natural events that have changed Earth's surface in Alberta specifically. So the students are being asked to analyze changes and do some explanation. We have opportunity here to draw in some computer science skills. We could cover identifying computational thinking used to solve problems or achieve desired outcomes by having conversations about how humans have managed with these natural events that are changing the Earth's surface over time. So we can look at engineering designs that have been developed as a consequence of some natural event. We can look at how we design our world to make up for natural events, or to account for natural events, or to anticipate natural events coming, and look at how designs have changed over the years as we learn things about the changing Earth's surface. We can ask students to look for examples of creativity, or we can have these discussions with our class about how scientists and engineers have found creative solutions for problems that have been created by natural events changing the surface of Earth, and how we use land has changed over time because of these natural changes as well. So as we look at first looking at specifically what types of events are making these changes, we have the opportunity to dive into computational thinking with our students and working through that process. And so we can start with the language. Let's decompose, these different natural events. What are the attributes of them? And in particular, what about them causes them to make major changes to the Earth's surface? So we're going to look at the attributes of these natural events and figure out what pieces we need. We're going to decompose them down. We're going to look for patterns between them. Are they in the same areas of the world or different areas of the world? Are there particular natural events that you don't need to worry about depending upon where you live? if there are, those aren't, relevant to my world right here. So that's something extra that I don't need. I'm going to abstract down. We're going to focus on, what is local to us. So working through that computational thinking, we could even move into like algorithm design, asking students to come up with, a defined set of rules for what makes these natural events, or what it is, and if a volcano had an algorithm, what would it be? Can we write that out? So we'd be learning about volcanoes, but then also working on those computer science skills of writing algorithms and sets of instructions. Representing how the movement of water and wind changes Earth over time. So key term here being represent. Anytime students are being asked to create something, we're going to be seeing the design thinking process. We have the opportunity, because we're talking about maybe some different types of landforms, and how a river valley is created by water, but certain other things are created by wind. So again, those opportunities to work on computational thinking, to look at specific attributes of, say, erosion and weathering, and break out what those key pieces are. How does that change impact us as humans, making connections to, for example, I'm familiar with the Edmonton River Valley. That allows me to connect to other examples of land changed by erosion or weathering, or major land changes in other places of the world. Making those connections is connecting into computational thinking as well, because we're looking at some pattern recognition. So if I know what the Edmonton River Valley looks like, this makes me able to recognize a river valley no matter where I am. That kind of idea. So again, in your computer science curriculum, we see there some concepts around creative thinking and engineers designed, and how and people have used computational thinking in the past to solve problems or identifying examples of creativity. So we could do an activity or a lesson in something like this. So this is an old news article about some houses that were having some trouble in the river valley. We can open up a whole bunch of different conversation and activities sort of around this concept. So we're covering the energy thing. We're looking at land changes over time. We can draw in the design process, definitely pull on some of that empathy, and have students work on those empathy skills. How do you think these people felt? And then beyond that, what do you think was learned from this happening? And then we can maybe do some research and investigation into what types of designs, how have engineers figured out how to build homes or structures in a way that they will be able to stay standing when the land changes? And do we still build in those kinds of places now that we know that these kinds of land changes are going to happen over time? And so we have this opportunity to have a conversation about landforms and changes, but also to look at some innovative ways that engineers have dealt with this and solved this problem that has come from those land changes. We're asking students to represent something. So we're asking them in this case to represent a flow of water. So at a very simple level, just putting the steps that water would go in from the glacier down to the oceans is going to be very simply covering the computer science skills and procedures, where we're asking students to put instructions in order. Maybe if we ask them to, analyze their instructions and look to see if they have any mistakes, we're working into some of that debugging and refining instructions as well, asking them to simplify it, tell it to me in the shortest amount of steps possible. Again, touching into computer science and refining. If we're learning some about these different bodies of water that are involved in this cycle, we might be doing some of that algorithmic thinking, or some computational thinking, decomposing the different attributes, like, glaciers are the only ones that are frozen, and so, like, where do they have to be if they're going to be frozen all the time, and having conversations, looking at attributes, finding patterns, working out computational thinking, because your students are expected to really understand the computational thinking process. If we can connect any pieces of it into things that we're doing in our other lessons, we're going to really help them get a solid understanding of what that is. In Earth systems, we see a lot about how human activities in our Earth systems are connected to each other and how one influences and impacts the other. We have opportunities to do discussions. We have definitely the opportunity to do some empathizing as we look at different types of perspectives. So we might be talking about farming practices, and now we're asking students, how do you think it feels to be a farmer with these changes, and how the earth is changing, and there's pressures for environmental change, and put yourself in the farmer's shoes. Let's empathize and get in those shoes, and then reverse, put on the shoes of the oil field worker, and how do they feel about these things, and how is the whole world focused on this problem of the impact that students are having, or that humans are having on our earth, and how are scientists and engineers working to come up with solutions so that we can continue to use the land but also preserve it. So we have these are big Earth systems ideas. There's lots of ways that we could go with them depending on specifically where you live. The conversation is different also. But if we're asking students to look at those attributes, find out what matters, does this have an impact on the land? It doesn't? Okay, it doesn't matter. We can ignore that. We've abstracted. We've simplified. Identifying, again, this is an opportunity to look at how advances in technology and how what we've learned about what's happening to the planet have influenced us, and we've progressed and changed the way that we use the land to help offset some of the damage that's been done, and to ensure that we are reducing our impact in the future. Those are innovations, examples of creativity in technology and engineering. Even having a conversation with your students about how farming practices have changed as we've learned. Again, farmers have learned, we've gone from tilling the land to no-till is a more common current practice, because science has taught us over time, and we've learned that not tilling the land is what's better for the soil, and that's what's going to protect the earth more. So we recognize where old practices, problems may have been caused. We can look at how, again, science, engineers have learned and come up with new processes creatively that are meant to protect our lands. So this is computer science concepts easily touched on while we're also talking about this conservation idea in our earth systems. Then your Earth systems also gets into the studying a little bit of the fossils and dinosaurs. So again, lots of opportunity to talk about creativity in technology and engineering. How did they figure out how to start digging up dinosaurs, and what does technology look like today for paleontologists, and what are they able to learn about how those animals lived because of technology? So lots of opportunities to explore these computer science skills and procedures, while also learning about how fossilized dinosaurs have been buried, and how scientists are uncovering them and learning a lot about what the earth was like millions of years ago. And this is all due to science and advances in technology. So you can do like a virtual visit to the Tyrrell Museum. Students can empathize with a paleontologists and what it's like to, work in a museum. We could have talks about careers there as a connection into computer science. And again, finding out how technology has changed in the world of paleontology is hitting these computer science skills and procedures around creativity and identifying computational thinking in the world. Big stuff in Earth systems. We're also talking about soil and all of the components. So this is a perfect way to directly connect in computational thinking. So when we are taking dirt and breaking it into its components and its different parts, we are completely decomposing that. We have soil. Let's break it down into its parts so that we can examine each of those and we can look for those patterns. We can make generalizations about Earth, about the different layers, and do abstraction. And then maybe we can even create some algorithms, write some rules for how would you put these layers in, how would a machine put the layers of soil in the right order. And if I ask students to create those algorithms, write those sets of instructions, we're not only making sure we know the layers of Earth in the right order, we're also drawing in some of our computer science skills and procedures and working on those as well. Drawing on design thinking, we may have opportunities to empathize with the animals. We could empathize with the plants, talk about how our actions influence. How do you think animals feel about this happening, or what do you think the plants feel about the soil changing or the earth changing? So there's lots of opportunities to have conversations, open up critical thinking skills, and anytime you have a chance to connect in decomposing pattern recognition, pattern abstraction into what you're doing, you're going to help build those skills for the computer sciences along with whatever else it is you're working on. So those are some ways you can connect computer science into your Earth systems. I hope you enjoyed.